Thank you Squarespace for sponsoring this video!
Most Starfleet ships harken back to the original design seen in the 1960s, as done by Matt Jeffries. You've got your primary hull, you've got your elongated secondary hull, and you've got two nacelles that generally stick out from pylons from that secondary hull. That's sort of the overall design that Starfleet seems to follow. You see it in your Constitution classes, in your Galaxy classes, your Excelsior classes, your Ambassador classes. It's sort of the bread and butter of Starfleet. That said, it doesn't always align with that either. Throughout its history, Starfleet has come up with some very interesting adaptations of this general shape as well, which is what we're going to go through on this list. Whether they were kitbashed in an afternoon or lovingly pored over by incredibly talented artists, these are some of the ship designs that had us scratching our heads and going, now how did you go from A to Z to 12? I'm Sean Ferry for TrekCulture, and here are the 10 most unique Starfleet ships. Number 10. Federation Tug Ships. Some of the most interesting designs of ships come from kit bashing. This is where designers will effectively take existing pieces of starships and see if they can arrange them together to create something new. Now, this is often a lot faster than coming up with a new ship entirely from scratch, even if it can lead to some interesting designs. The script for the DS9 episode A Time to Stand called for the depiction of a Federation Klingon task force that had had 7 levels of crap kicked out of it and had to be towed back to Federation space. A member of the design team, Judy Elkins, came up with the idea of this Federation tug ship. This ship looks fairly normal at first glance, but the closer you look, the more bizarre it comes. The ship's nacelles are not actually Starfleet in origin, but they come from a Romulan Datalus class warbird, which are attached to its primary hull using the pylons found on Voyager. Number 9. The Dauntless. The story of the Dauntless is pretty ridiculous. Originally, it was encountered by Voyager in the episode Hope and Fear, where they believed it to be a new type of Federation starship that had been sent to rescue them. It was equipped with a quantum slipstream drive, which was faster than any type of propulsion outside of Borg transwarp that had ever been seen at that point. Unfortunately, the ship was owned by a man called Arturus. He was one of the last survivors of an alien race that had been assimilated by the Borg, for which he held the crew of Voyager directly responsible. While that rosy relationship didn't really pan out, Voyager did manage to get very many detailed scans of that ship's slipstream drive. Their experiments were less than massively successful on Voyager, but the research allowed Starfleet to continue these experiments, which eventually led to the creation of the Dauntless that Admiral Janeway commands in Star Trek Prodigy. It does make sense that Starfleet would reverse engineer this ship for their experiments. Perhaps the ship has to be a certain shape for the slipstream drive to actually be effective. One thing that is a little bit odd is that the bridge is exactly the same as the one Arturus had, considering that was a holographic representation of what he imagined a Starfleet bridge would look like. But maybe the designers looked at it and went, hey, if it ain't broke. There are a few other differences between the two Dauntlesses, but one of the biggest ones being the size of it. The Starfleet Dauntless is far larger than Arturus's one. Number 8. Saturn Class. Starfleet had begun experimenting with many new types of designs by the 32nd century. These included detachable nacelles, detachable primary hulls, and sometimes a complete departure from that original design as seen in the 60s. One such class is the Saturn Class. Now, it's not hard to see where it got its name, as the ship is effectively a giant ring. It looks pretty fragile, if I'm honest with you, and I would not like to send this one into battle. 2 flattened and sort of spiked nacelles stick out from the back of this ship, giving the otherwise incredibly smooth Saturn Class a bit more definition. The Saturn Class does a good job of giving a futuristic look to the 32nd century fleet, but we do have to question why you would create a ship that is effectively one big weak spot. You're going to see more gaps in the hull come up on this list. Number 7. The Vengeance. The ships in the Kelvin timeline all use very different designs from what we're used to in the Prime timeline, but the Vengeance really does stand out. Secretly designed by Section 31 by Admiral Marcus and Khan, the Vengeance was designed, pure and simple, to be a warship. It was twice the size of the Enterprise, which itself was already far larger than the Prime Universe Enterprise. In fact, in emergencies, it could be operated by a single crewman with the aid of AI systems on board. The Vengeance was also 3 times faster than the Enterprise and contained attack drones that could separate from the ship to create a mini fleet when attacking an enemy. Visually, the Vengeance was much darker than its contemporaries in Starfleet and had a large hole in its saucer section. Now, it does look cool, but you kind of have to wonder why Admiral Marcus had a big model of it on his desk when it was meant to be a top secret project. Number 6. Datalus and Olympic classes. The saucer section is standard issue for Starfleet ships, so it's always very interesting when any Starfleet design diverges from that. The book The Making of Star Trek contains a drawing of the original Enterprise that had a spherical saucer section. Matt Jeffries, when designing the Enterprise, eventually moved on from this sphere saucer section as he thought it was too bulky, but that design was then brought back and became effectively the USS Horizon, the model of which you can see in Sisko's office in many episodes of Deep Space Nine. This, at that point, was given the designation of the Datalus class. The only time we actually see the Datalus class in canon is when it makes a couple of appearances in Star Trek Lower Decks. Jeffries' original design also made a big impact on designer Bill George, who, when he was coming up with the design for the Olympic class USS Pasteur for All Good Things, directly references the Datalus class itself. While the two classes may be visually very close to each other, they were quite different in terms of their use. The Datalus class was an exploratory vehicle, whereas the Olympic class were hospital vehicles. Number 5. Oirth Class. I have a lot of love for the Oirth Class, which is strangely hated in the fandom. The Oirth Class connects its 2 nacelles across a flat primary hull. These then connect to the secondary hull via 2 pylons that come down, creating a big gap in the middle that's not unlike the gap found in the Romulan Datalus class warbird. These ships were primarily tasked with scientific exploration, but in a pinch could be deployed for combat situations, although, as you can see in both Wolf 359 and the Battle of Sector 001, they really should have stuck in their lane. One Oirth class, the USS Pegasus, experimented with technology that was illegal in the Federation, which led to its eventual destruction and the death of most of its crew. As the nacelle designs show, these are from an older era of Starfleet. The first one we saw was in Star Trek III: The Search for Spock, where the ill-fated USS Grissom was conducting research of the Genesis planet. While the exterior has remained more or less the same in the close to century between that and the time of Deep Space Nine, the interiors received significant upgrades. Number 4. The Jagger Class. Another famous example of kit bashing gone mad is the USS Jagger. It was effectively created by sticking bits of the Intrepid class to an almost completely built model of the Valjean, Chakotay's Maquis raider. The only other real difference was sticking an extra nacelle onto the bottom of the hull. The DS9 technical manual does state that Starfleet will combine different classes of ship at a pinch when they need to, but the Jaeger just doesn't make sense. If you're thinking the size of the Maquis Raider, it is clearly much smaller than Voyager, so the scale is 100% off, and I've got to be honest, it's as ugly as sin. Look, kit bashing like this can be fine if a ship is just designed to be in the very background of a scene just to kind of pad it out a little bit, but because of reused shots in DS9, we've seen the Jaeger more than we've seen the Enterprise F. Number 3. Prometheus Class. Saucer separation has been a thing for a while. Even the original Enterprise was able to separate its saucer section, although we didn't see it on screen, but it was described to be able to do that to use the saucer as a lifeboat to escape in a catastrophe. The Prometheus class looked at that and said, hold my beer. First introduced in the Voyager episode Message in a Bottle, the ship can separate into 3 completely autonomous starships in what is called multi-vector assault mode. These can then combine to quickly overwhelm an enemy. This starship class was also equipped with ship-wide hollow emitters and was, at the time of its creation, the fastest ship in the fleet. Despite being created in the 24th century, one appeared in the 26th century at the Battle of Procyon 5, at which the Enterprise J was present. This shows that the design was probably so successful that it remained in service for that long. And if you want other examples of that, just look at the Excelsior and Miranda class ships. Aside from being so technically and technologically advanced, the ship is beautiful. The 4 primary nacelles sitting beside that arrowhead saucer section give this elegant sleekness to it. We did recently see one in the Prodigy episode Preludes, so hopefully this will be a sign there will be more Prometheus Class ships in the future. Number 2, Eisenberg Class. The hull of the Eisenberg Class ship really reminds me of the liner from Wall-E. If you think of it, it does look like a cruise ship with 2 nacelles hovering at either side. At the request of Alex Kurtzman, this was given the designation of the Eisenberg Class to honor the departed Aaron Eisenberg, who passed away in 2019. Discovery also featured an Eisenberg Class ship by the name of the USS Nog, which was to honor, of course, Eisenberg's character on Deep Space Nine. The design of the Eisenberg Class gives some much needed variety to the Starfleet fleet, and of course it is a wonderful tribute to a fantastic actor, and to know that his character was being remembered almost 1,000 years in the future was very touching for fans as well. Number 1, Angelou Class. The 32nd century Angelou Class is, in simple terms, a flying donut with a rainforest inside it. This rainforest is protected by a transparent shield that runs the circumference of the ship. Now, you might mistake these for flying space stations, but no, they are in fact starships, as evidenced when several of them were destroyed during the burn. When Discovery first arrived at the 32nd Century Federation headquarters, Tilly exclaimed that she was quite surprised to see a flying rainforest. But the funny thing is that this is not actually a super new idea. In fact, humanity sent several seed pods out into space to protect them during the Third World War. Later, they grew too big to be returned to Earth, and so were collected and brought back together again by Starbase 1. This was depicted in the first episode of Strange New Worlds. The Angelou Class can be seen then as something of an evolution of these earlier experiments. The only other real external feature is there seems to be a long structure coming out from the center of these, which presumably connects to a single engine.
Hi, I'm Duncan Rillick, and I collect relics from before the burn. My store, Relics by Rillick, is open on Starbase 80. Yes, it is still there. And whatever quantum reality you're from, you can check me out thanks to Squarespace. Squarespace's all-in-one website platform is the best tool to help we entrepreneurs succeed in this galaxy. Thanks to Squarespace, I can link Relics by Rillick's social accounts and multimedia, letting you see everything I've discovered through that portal. Squarespace also allows me to use built-in email campaigns and marketing tools to fundraise on my site too. It helps me fund my travels because they are not cheap. Squarespace also has fantastic SEO doodads that let us show up more often and to more civilizations. Don't forget to stay one step ahead of the breen though. Speaking of, Squarespace uses Starfleet approved design intelligence AI technology. You get to stay in control and build your own personalized wonderful website. Go to squarespace.com/TrekCulture for a free trial and 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Remember, if it ain't Rillick, then it ain't a relic. No relation.
That's everything for our list today, folks. What did you think of the ships on this list? Do you think there are more that we absolutely should cover? Let us know. We'll do a sequel. I have been Sean for TrekCulture. Please make sure you check out the article upon which this video was based. That was written by Marcia Fry. That's available over on whatculture.com. Follow us at TrekCulture on the various socials. Follow me at Sean Ferrick on the various socials. You are awesome. You are wonderful. I will talk to you soon. Live long and prosper. Thanks.